Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm running late today, so welcome to tomorrow's Church of God Sabbath services. If everybody would please turn to page number 16 in your songbooks and stand. We are going to sing Come Thou Almighty King, page number 16. Hope we paid the band still. There we go. Come thou almighty King, help us thy name to sing, help us to praise. Father, O glorious, o'er all victorious, come and reign over us, ancient of days. Come thou incarnate Word, gird on thy mighty sword, and help thee fend. Come and thy people bless, and give thy word success. Spirit of holiness, our prayer attend. Come, holy advocate, a pure heart in us create. In this glad hour, those who ride the art, open our minds to see what Christ would have us be, Spirit of power. Great start. And now, if you'll turn all the way over to page number 96, we're going to sing Onward Christian Soldiers, and after which we'll get Mr. Johnny Padilla to come do the opening prayer. Page number 96. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the word of Jesus going on before. Christ the royal master leads against the foe, forward into battle, see his banners go. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the word of Jesus going on before. Like a mighty army moves the church of God. Brothers, we are treading where the saints have trod. We are not divided, all one body we, one in hope and doctrine, one in charity. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the word of Jesus going on before. Crowns and thrones may perish, kingdoms rise and wane, but the church of Jesus constant will remain. Gates of hell can never against the church prevail. We have Christ's own promise, which can never fail. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the word of Jesus going on before. Onward then, ye people, join our happy throng. Blend without your voices in the triumph song. Glory, laud, and honor unto Christ the King. This through countless ages, men and angels sing. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the word of Jesus going on before. Thank you. And now for opening prayer today, Mr. Johnny Padilla.
Our Heavenly and Merciful Father, come before you on this Sabbath day, this holy day you set aside for us to rest, Father, and mainly to come before you and to honor you and give you, and also to give you thanks and praise, Father, and also to sing to you, and also to your Son, Father, who is our Redeemer. One day He will come for us, Father, and all His promise. And Father, we do ask to inspire each one of us here and for those listening over the internet, and may your word come down to us, Father, and be over us all and give us guidance in your ways, Father, as we go into this Bible study in chapter 21 and 22, and inspire Joe and lead him and use him as a vessel, Father, and may all the words that come before us and edify us and give us truths that we need. And also, Father, be with those not able to be here, or if they're on the infirmity, may you asking for healing and comforting for them, Father. And all this we ask in your Son's name. Amen.
Thank you, Johnny. A couple of announcements today. It says, good morning and welcome to tomorrow's Church of God, not yesterday's Church of God, and welcome to all of our online viewers. Hello. You can download today's scriptures right from your own Bible, because we're going to be going through Numbers 21 and 22 today. You can go to our website under audio video, select scripture handout, and you'll find the PDF file that you can find right there. But Ron, I'm sure, do we actually have the Bible chapters on there also, or just the scriptures normally?
Yeah,
just the scriptures. Okay, so, but you could go to Bible Gateway and type in Numbers 21 and read right what we're going to read. However you're watching this, we are now on Rumble, Facebook, YouTube, and Roku. If you're looking for us on Roku, we are under The Sabbath Channel. However you're watching this, if you would please take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button. Also share with your friends. What this will do is help get the word out, help increase our online presence. Now, if you'd like one of our 2024 calendars or booklets, I know we're already in November. Maybe we got to work on a 2025 calendar. Simply send your address and an email to tomorrowtcog@gmail.com. Ask for one of those. Better yet, if you just want to download it, you can go download it from our website, which is thetcog.com. Select the literature and calendars, and you'll see a 2024 calendar PDF right there that you can just print out and have for your records. Now, as I always say every week, the dates in this calendar are subject to change based on the new moon physical observations. Today for our Bible study, again, we're going to be doing Numbers 21 and 22. So if you have any Bible study questions that you want to ask, simply go online to that same website, thetcog.com. Click TCOG streaming. You can ask your questions in the comment section, or if you usually make comments to add to our repertoire that we've got here. Ron is manning that computer right now to get those messages over to me. There is a special prayer request before we get the prayer list up there. If you would keep Tony Blizzard in your prayers. Unfortunately, he's been put on hospice. So please keep him in your prayers, along with Charlotte and all their families. I know that they would greatly appreciate that. And now, on the screen, you should see the prayer list for this week. I believe Tony is on there. Yep, Tony's on there, but special prayer request for him. Again, if you would please pray for everybody on this list, along with their family members. I know that they would greatly, greatly appreciate it. And I think that's all of our announcements today. If you're online and you have a prayer request, you can always send those in to that email, which is tomorrow tc. No, that's it. Yeah, so the email is tomorrowtcog@gmail.com. We can get you added to the list, or hopefully make some updates to our prayer request list. All right, and if there's no other announcements, again today we're going to be covering Numbers 21 and 22. I like to read out of the Names of God Bible, but if you've got a different version, please read along with us as we go through. I like to kind of compare and contrast the different versions to try to get down to what it actually is trying to say. All right, so I guess this week, let's start in verse 1 of chapter 21. It says, when the Canaanite king Arad, who lived in the Negev, heard that the Israelites were coming on the road to Atharim, he found them and took some of them as prisoners. The Israelites made this vow to Yahweh: if you will hand these people over to us, we will destroy their cities because you've claimed them. Yahweh listened to the Israelites, and he handed the Canaanites over to them. They destroyed the Canaanites and their cities, so they called the place Hormah, which means claimed for destruction. In verse 4, my subtitle says the bronze snake, which I'm sure we're all heard of, but it's a very interesting story. It says, then they moved from Mount Hor, following the road that goes to the Red Sea. In order to get around Edom, the people became impatient on the trip and criticized Elohim and Moses. They said, why did you make us leave Egypt? Just to let us die in the desert? There's no bread or water, and we can't stand this awful food. Verse 6, so Yahweh sent poisonous snakes among the people. They bit the people, and many of the Israelites died. The people came to Moses and said, we've sinned, and we've criticized Yahweh and you. Pray to Yahweh so that he'll take the snakes away from us. So Moses prayed for the people. Yahweh said to Moses, make a snake and put it on a pole. Anyone who is bitten can look at it and live. So Moses made a bronze snake and put it on a pole. People looked at the bronze snake after they were bitten, and they lived. Verse 10, my subtitle or heading says, Israel travels past Edom to Moab. It says, the Israelites moved and set up camp at Oboth. Next they moved from Oboth and set up camp at Abram in the desert west of Moab. From there they moved and set up camp at the Zered River. They moved from there and set up camp on the other side of the Arnon Valley in the desert that extends into Amorite territory. The Arnon Valley is the border between Moab and the Amorites. This is how it's described in the book of wars of Yahweh. Waheb in Suphah in the valleys, Arnon and the slopes of the valleys that go down to the side of Ar and lie along the border of Moab. From there they went to Beer, which means well. This is the well where Yahweh said to Moses, gather the people and I will give them water. Then Israel sang this song about the well. Make your water spring up, sing to the well dug by princes, dug out by the nobles of the people with their scepters and their staffs. From the desert they went to Madanah. I think I got that right. I've always want to try to say Manhattan, but it's not that. Madanah, and from Madanah to Nahali, and from Nahaleth to Bamoth, and from Bamoth to the valley of Moab, where Mount Pisgah overlooks Jessamine. That was tough. All right, my next heading says Sihon and Og defeated. Verse 21. Then Israel sent messengers to say to King Sihon of the Amorites, let us go through your country. We won't go through any of your fields or vineyards or drink any of the water in your wells. We'll stay at on the king's highway until we've passed through your territory. Sihon wouldn't let Israel pass through his territory. Sihon gathered all of his troops and came out into the desert to attack Israel. When Sihon's troops came to Jahaz, they fought against Israel, but Israel defeated them in battle and took possession of their land from the Arnon Valley to the Jabbok River. They stopped at the border of Ammon because it was fortified. Israel took all those Amorite cities, including Heshbon and all its villages, and lived in them. Heshbon was the city of King Sihon of the Amorites. He had fought the former king of Moab and had taken all of his land up to the Arnon Valley. This is why the poets say, come to Heshbon, rebuild it, restore Sihon city. Fire came out of Heshbon, flames from Sihon city. They destroyed Ar of Moab, if I can talk today. The rulers of Arnon's worship sites. How horrible it is to you, Moab. You are destroyed, you people of God, Chemosh. Chemosh let his sons become refugees, and he let his daughters become prisoners of King Sihon of the Amorites. But we shot the Amorites full of arrows from Heshbon to Dibon. They all died. We destroyed everyone and everything between Nophah and Medeba. So Israel settled in the land of the Amorites. After Moses sent spies to Jazer, the Israelites captured its cities and villages and forced out the Amorites who were there. Then they turned and followed the road that goes to Bashan. King Og of Bashan and all of his troops came out to fight the Israelites at Edrei. Yahweh said to Moses, don't be afraid of him. I'll hand him and his troops and his land over to you. do to him what you did to King Sihon of the Amorites who ruled in Heshbon. The Israelites defeated him, his sons, and all of his troops, leaving no survivors, and they took possession of his land. And that's the end of 21. Ron, I forgot to give this to you, but I have a little USB. I brought it today, and it's actually under Numbers 21 on there. There'll be some maps that we can go through. Yeah, woo! Trying to spice it up a little bit today. All right, so that's chapter 21. First question already. Yes, ma'am.
When they got bit by the snake,
Uh-huh.
what do you think Yahweh said because snake, put it up there on a pole? Doesn't the snake represent Satan?
Yeah, this is a very curious part, and there are hours and hours and hours of information on the internet, of course, that you could go take a look at. I do a lot of my research through it's Torah class. You go online, I go to YouTube and type in Torah class, and it's by Tom Bradford. He has a very good section on this. He talks about this one section right here with the snakes for about an hour and a half.
Wow.
So there's a lot of good information. I can't quite get too deep into it just because it was so overwhelming to me. But to answer your question, yes. And the reason I had you go there specifically is because he's got some research laid out where he doesn't know if it's necessarily a snake that was put on the pole or a seraphim. The words are very similar in Hebrew on there, and he gives several instances. I think I wrote some of them down. Isaiah 6:2, which talks about a seraphim. 2 Kings 18:4, where that was, remember who, where, I'll just read it. It says, he got rid of the illegal places of worship, crushed the sacred stones, cut down the poles dedicated to the goddess Asherah. He even crushed the bronze snake that Moses had made because at that time, Israelites had begun burning incense to it. So this was like 500 years later, they're worshiping this image on there. Now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to say that they were eventually going to worship.
Exactly. That's why he wants all these poles destroyed when they come into the land of Canaan. They want them all destroyed because he knows people are going to start to look at those and go, oh, that's where my God comes through. So I'm going to start praying to that idol. Back in Exodus, when Aaron made the golden calf, they didn't do it to worship a pagan god. They said, hey, let us make this calf so we can worship God who brought us out. So man is really, really bad about picking anything, right, to make it an idol. That's why it's one of the Ten Commandments is don't worship anything in the heavens, the sea, the land, or anything, because God knows that's our preemptive human nature to idolize and start worshiping things that we create to put our gods into those little items. Yes, ma'am.
It's kind of like inserting something between us and the Father.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Where we see that instead of Him.
Exactly. We're worshiping His creation rather than the Creator on there. And these are not, of course, God didn't create these things, but man's created it. And to Linda's point, we're trying to worship God through something else to get to Him, and that's the relationship that He wants. He wants a direct, personal relationship on there. Now, this story, like I said, there's so much information about it and the different thoughts and philosophies on it. But again, it's only 5 verses long. So all these hours of contemplating and everything else, there's just people's opinions on there, so you got to take them with a grain of salt. However, there is some good information. I like the ones who go back and actually research into the Hebrew words to find out the meanings instead of just kind of putting their spin on it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, many, what I come to understand is like, okay, when you look at it, and it's pretty much kind of represent kind of like a sin,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's bring Christ into the picture. Okay, He's God, but He came in a body, and just kind of represent, flesh and God, flesh and spirit.
Okay.
Okay, we're looking at it, but He's not like us sinners. It's a God that cannot sin. So
Right.
We're looking at it, and and also it speaks, it's a flame there. Nevertheless, it's even though it's in bronze, meaning back in Revelation, God's skin was like a bronze color. It's kind of more or less representing Christ. When you look at him, you depend on him, he can, resolve your problems. I mean, snake bitten,
Yeah.
He'll keep you from dying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I want to kind of expound on that. So the reason that they put this up here, if we go backwards in time, is because they sinned against God and Moses, right? And so God punished them with these poisonous snakes, and then they had to look upon this snake on a pole to be healed if they were bitten, right? The Messiah references that in the New Testament when he says, just like the snake was raised up in the desert in Moses' time, he's going to be raised up. And to your point, we look to Messiah, who died for us to forgive us our sins, the same way that they kind of did that in the desert here.
Exactly.
Yeah. So great point on there.
Yeah, I mean, a person reading through that, they'll miss it.
Yeah, it's
You gotta do more research into it. What is this talking about?
Exactly. So great point, and that's why like I said, there's hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of information on the internet going over it, which a lot of it's very good, but we got to remember there's only 5 verses here, and if anything more than that, it's just man's kind of supposition putting their thoughts on it. And that's why, again, I like to go back to the ones who actually do the research the Hebrew words out to try to come with a correlation there.
As long as God is tied into it, it'll explain itself, so it kind of makes more sense, why this was placed there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Good point. Great point. What else we got today? That's it. I had 2 questions. Yes, ma'am.
So many people died, I wonder how many people can remember that, how many people have been lost at this point,
So all the original billions of people that came in that were above the age of 20 at this point are either have died or are about to die, and I don't know if these people that have been snake bit and die are the remaining people on there. It doesn't really clarify that. It just, God said that everybody that was above the age of 20 who complained weren't going to go into the promised land. Yes, ma'am.
Was that just the men or men and women?
That was everybody. Yeah. Men and women both. They're a great question, though. Yeah. Did that answer your question, hopefully? All right. What other kind of comments, questions we got? All right, Johnny. Oh, you got one, Ron? Okay. So everybody else is pointing at you over here saying you got something.
I was going to tell you that your stuff is loaded.
Oh, okay. Great. Yeah. Thank you. If there's there's a 1, I think 1 through 5 on there. And so we'll kind of go through it here in a minute and see which ones go.
Well, maybe bring up the map.
You want to bring up the map? Okay. Let's start with 1 and we'll see. Yes, ma'am.
What was that last scripture that you read?
So that was 2 Kings 18:4.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also in there's another one. So it's Isaiah 6:2, and then I've got, and I hope I didn't write this down wrong. Isaiah 6:1 through 7. It kind of explains it a little bit more in there. So the Isaiah 2 just talks about the angels were standing above him. Each had 6 wings. The word angel actually is seraphim on there. It's actually a footnote that I've got. Actually,
Chapter 2?
you're right. No, it's Isaiah 6:2. Yeah, and the whole story is Isaiah 6:1 through 7 on there. All right, so let's see the map. Is it up?
Yep.
Oh, I can't see it. How am I going to explain it? All right, there we go. Cover my face up anyway. That's good. So it's always a good thing. Helps out with the broadcast. So on the bottom you see Edom. That's the territory, as we read last week, that they actually had to go around. And so let me see. Go to 4, I think it is.
Well, I got to figure out which one's for.
Which one's 4? It's the Google map.
Israelites, okay. Your journey. Hang on.
Maybe. All right, maybe we don't want to look at that one in the first place. I think it's all the way on the left there, Ron. On the bottom.
This one?
To your left, lefter.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
Is this the?
One more left. That one. One more left. Even further lefter. There you go. So this is a map of the possible routes on there. And so when we start this chapter where it says the Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in Negev, so that is just south of the Dead Sea there to the left. Kind of see where that mountain range looking area is? That's actually Negev. So they were here when they fought the Canaanite king of Arad. Now, you can see that it's a pretty quick shot from there. They could have just gone right up the east side and straight into the promised land. However, you got more Canaanites there, and then also on the seaside, you have the Palestinians. Or, not Palestinians, they were the Palestines. What was it called? Nope. Nope, I just went blank. Goliath? Philistines. Philistines, yeah, the Philistines. We say Palestinians today, but Philistines are on the left, and that actually means like sea people. And so that was a very strong hold that they did not have the guy didn't want to take them through there right now. So they started up there kind of just south of the Dead Sea. To the left, that's where they fought. I believe they came back down to the Red Sea and went over around Edom, which is in the bottom right corner there. And then, now we can, I just kind of want to show you the trick that they took here and why people started to complain. Because they're almost there, and all of a sudden now they have to backtrack to go around Edom because Moses said he wasn't going to go in to fight it because Edom was basically their relatives on there, and they don't want to start any trouble there. So they go all the way down and around their territory up to Moab. And now, if you'll go back to the first one there, Ron.
Hang on.
All right.
Timing is everything.
Timing is everything.
Which one?
The first one that you went to?
Oh, that one?
Sure. No, we can go from there. So they went. Actually, if that's the later one of the different families that took it, but that one right there. So they went around Edom on the bottom, up beside Moab, and then into the Amorite, which is the green area there. So that, yes, sir.
Was that where it said that it was walled off?
No, the Ammon on the right. And so that's in verse number 24. So if you see Ammon on that, on the right, that was fortified. And if we read verse 24 again, it says, "But Israel defeated them in battle and took possession of the land from the Arnon Valley to the Jabbok River. They stopped at the border of Ammon because it was fortified." So they took that whole green section right there, which was Sihon on there. And I don't know, does it show on there Heshbon, which was his city? That was his capital city, was Heshbon.
I don't see it on that one. Maybe it's on this.
Right. Or maybe not. Y'all caught me looking up at the map. Heshbon?
On that one, Ron.
Next one on that one?
The other one. Right where it says Reuben and it's right there.
Okay. At the end of Reuben. Heshbon is right there. So that's where the big valley was. They had this whole poetry, I guess, poem. I can't think of my words. Poem here about Heshbon. That's the city right there. And as you see, they didn't go into Armon because it was fortified. So they get here, and this is where we, in Deuteronomy, when we did our studies of Deuteronomy, we were like, hey, Reuben and Gad and Manasseh, like, hey, this is a pretty good area. We're just going to stay here. Sihon is the green area. Og, which is where we kind of ended up, the king of Og and Bashan, is the orange and the red areas on there, is where Og was at. So you see they came in, they went around Edom and Moab, and then came in where the Amorites were, and then just kind of took over the whole place. As we're going to see in, I think it starts in 22. Yeah. So when we get into chapters 22, really from verse 10 of chapters 21 here that we read through Numbers 24 is one big story. Because we're about to see in the next chapter that we get to, where Balak and Balaam on here. And it's because you see where Moab is right there. And they just came into the area where it says Reuben. And so they're sitting there several million strong. And then the story's going to be pretty interesting here in a minute. So. But before we get to there, what other kind of comments, questions do y'all have on this? I've got two hands already, but either one.
On 25, on the 25,
Verse 25.
verse 25 says, Israel took all these Amorite cities and burned Hezron and lived, and all its villages and lived in them.
Uh-huh.
Well, how long did they live in them?
You always ask the toughest questions. And
They're not the promised land.
they're not in the promised land. No, they're not promised land. But if you look, Reuben, the tribe of Reuben takes over that area. So you can think these, they had cities, and this was a fully functioning society that they just went and destroyed. And so, Ron, you got something?
Well, yeah, I'm just making an observation here that, you know, the land that they're occupying now is much bigger than what the promised land is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and as you see, when they go into the promised land, and it goes down a lot further than the bottom of the Red Sea, where some of the tribes ended up.
Oh, yeah, I realize that, but I guess I just never considered
How big it is, yeah. Yeah, no, it was a pretty big area there, and so they came in and took this over, and we're going to see again in 22. We'll get to it, but Moab's sitting there going, "Wait a second, these people just came in and they conquered the nations, two nations above us. I need some help," and so that's where 22 gets in. But I don't want to get there yet. So, I'm bleeding too much into it. Yes, sir.
But before, you kind of jumped ahead of game way, that's what I want to say.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that.
Can you go to the next map? It's showing the further south.
Further south, okay.
Yeah.
Do you want the one that had the trails on it?
Yeah, the trail.
Okay, so that was the one on all the way to, there you go.
That one right there.
Because these are different proposed sites because nobody knows 100%. And what throws it off, and let me see if I can find it, is it says, and not sorry to interrupt you or hold you up, but it's somewhere it says west of Moab. And so that's why there's all these different proposed sites, because they said and let me see if I can find it real quick. There it is, in verse 11. It says, the Israelites, well, I'm starting 10. Israelites moved and set up camp at Oboth. Next, they moved, and I tried to find Oboth, I can't find it online anywhere where it is today, so apologize. But next, they moved from Oboth and set up camp at Abram in the desert west of Moab. So we saw where Moab's at, and if you go west, your Dead Sea area, maybe just south of the Dead Sea, that's the Negev on there, where that little area is where they, again, fought the Canaanite king Arad on there, which was in the first section of chapter 21. So I'm not sure if that's supposed to be west or if that's just a mistranslation or what on there, because, again, they start traveling, and all of a sudden they end up west of Moab again, and then they're going to be on the east side of Moab as they go up and into the Amorite land. So that's why there's so many different lines on here on the proposed routes that they took, because there's a little bit of confusion there. Ron, do you know anything on that? No?
I haven't did that much study in that.
It's interesting. I mean, to kind of see it and to try to plot out the places that they went. You know, these are real places. Now, what's interesting, if you go to Google Maps, you start typing in these different places, it changes the name to today's name. Yeah, it's like one of them was, let's see, where was it at? I can't remember offhand, but maybe I'll get to it in a minute, hopefully. But if it's funny, if you go through, which is what I did, and just start typing in these names into Google Earth, a lot of them will change. Maybe that's what Abram changes the name on there. And but interesting, I would recommend everybody go and do that. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to, let's start here. Barnea. Okay. On a first route, 40 years back, they're supposed to have entered the promised land that way.
Straight through there. Yeah, straight shot. Yeah.
But this time around, not so. They, they're going to enter, like you say,
From the east side.
on the east side. But anyway, what's happening here in verse 1, Moses would send out
Spies.
To scope out the land.
Yep.
Mainly, and that's what they were doing. But when they were doing that, the Arad,
The Amorites?
yeah, the king of Arad.
Okay.
Got kind of
A little nervous?
Coming our way because they were there before, 4 years ago. I mean, coming our way again.
Yeah.
I mean, this location, and they might want to come through here. So, and they kind of battled, took some prisoners.
They went and took them by surprise, right? So they weren't expecting the king of Arad to come out, so they came out and kind of caught them by surprise and took some prisoners.
Mainly they was going to go from there, go south towards HOR, but that's further north, what I'm taking. But they wasn't going to go, to the land of Canaan at that time.
Right.
Go around.
Yeah, they wanted to just go right through Eden.
They asked for permission.
Yeah, they asked for permission last week. When we went through it, they asked for permission. They couldn't. That would have been a straight shot. They could have just gone. And they were talking about the King's Highway on there. And so King's Highway is a shot that goes like from the Red Sea, top of the Red Sea, over to Egypt. And then it goes straight up into, I think, modern-day Syria now, where there's just a road that goes to the east of the Dead Sea there, straight up. And they just wanted to hop on that road and go straight up. Yes, sir.
I think that's the same road Petra is on.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, I did not know that. Yeah, for anybody that is online that was listening, Ron said that's the same road that Petra's on.
And another interesting fact that I didn't know until recently is Aaron's tomb is supposedly right there next to him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, that's what they tell the
That's what they tell the church. I was going to say, because last week when he died, they said they buried him on top of a hill.
Well, it's a mountain.
Yeah, there's the mountain. I guess so, yeah. That's interesting.
Another interesting thing, I was just noticing that red line, I don't know if that's when they first went in from the top of the Red Sea there, going into Israel.
On the left-hand side?
Into Israel, yes. That is almost the border of modern-day Israel.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was wondering how that felt.
Yeah. Very interesting. I'm sorry, Johnny. We cut you off.
There's a town there at the time, but the Canaanites, they had 3,500 in population at that time. But
3,500? That's pretty small.
yeah, it's pretty small.
Yeah.
It's small, but nevertheless, it's they're part of the nation.
Yeah.
Even though it was like a trade place, for trading, but what they had there in this place, this mound, they have bellium, something that they needed back in the time.
Oh, okay.
Only at that location had it. So
They were pretty popular then.
Yeah, they were. They were trading with Africa, whoever needed that type of product.
Right.
But nevertheless, there were people in that region where around it was nothing but desert. But they had a reason to stay there.
They had a reason to stay there, exactly.
Even though, like I say, they wasn't going to go into the promised land that way. They were going around and south from there, but then they got attacked. So hey,
Got to do what you got to do, right? So somebody attacks you. What's very interesting too about that verse 2 and 3. If we read it again, it says the Israelites made a vow with Yahweh. If you will hand these people over to us, we'll destroy their cities because you've claimed them. Yahweh listened to the Israelites and handed the Canaanites over to them. So, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, mainly, want to get their people back.
Right.
How are you going to do it any other way? So, came in there and completely wiped them out.
Completely wiped them out. And what's interesting on here is the way that it says, when it says, we'll destroy their cities because you've claimed them. What they didn't take any spoils from this attack. Normally, these are like mercenaries that you would go in and you would spoil like they did with the Egyptians. Running out of time. All right, so I got the clock version already. All right, so what would happen is they would go and take all the spoils. What they did with here when they made a vow with Yahweh on this is they said, we're not going to touch anything. This is all belongs to you. And so they didn't take anything from this conquest that God gave them on there, which is pretty interesting on there. But that's why it reads kind of different. It says, because you've claimed it, we'll have these over, we'll destroy the cities because you've claimed it, because our vow is with you that you'll take these spoils if there's, if you let us win and get our people back on there. You have another comment? I got to kind of go quickly on 21. If anybody else got another comment. Everybody's good? All right, so now we'll go to chapter 22. Thank y'all very much for the conversation. Hopefully that was interesting on there. We can still use the map here in a little bit, but 22, as I said a little bit earlier, this section is really just one story. Man has come in and put the different chapters in, but from verse 10 of 21 all the way through 24 is the same story of them with their travels trying to get to the promised land. Just this one little route that they're taking. So it's time to go in, right? Aaron's died, Miriam's died. It's time to go in. They go around Edom, come up into next to Moab, and then take over the Amorites. So this is all together. So remember, from that map, the Moabites are just south of what the land that they just conquered of the Amorites with Shahan, and Og on there. So we'll start chapter 22 and say verse 1 also. It says, then the Israelites moved and set up camp across from Jericho on the plains of Moab, east of the Jordan River. Balak, son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. The Moabites were very afraid because there were so many Israelites. Besides, the Moabites couldn't stand these people. So the Moabites said to the leaders of Midian, all these people will eventually eat up everything around us the same way that an ox eats up the grass of the field. At that time, Balak, son of Zippor, was king of Moab. He sent messengers to summon Balaam, son of Beor, who was at Pethor on the Euphrates River, in the land where his people live. Balak's message was, a nation has just come from Egypt. They've spread out all over the countryside and are setting up their camp here in front of me. Please come and curse these people for me because they are too strong for me. Maybe then I'll be able to defeat them and force them out of our country. I know that whomever you bless is blessed, and whomever you curse is cursed. The leaders of Moab and Midian left, taking money with them to pay for Balaam's services. They came to Balaam and told him what Balak said. Spend the night here, Balaam said to them, and I'll report to you what Yahweh tells me. So the prince of Moab stayed with Balaam. Elohim came to Balaam and asked, who are these men with you? Balaam answered, Balak, son of King Zippor of Moab, sent these with this message. Some people have just come from Egypt and are spreading out all over the countryside. Now come and curse them for me. Maybe I'll be able to fight them and force them out. But Elohim said to Balaam, don't go with them. Don't curse these people because they are blessed. When Balaam got up in the morning, he said to Balak's princess, go back to your own country because Yahweh has refused to let us go with you. So the Moabite princess went back to Balak and said, Balaam refused to come with us. Balak sent a large group of more highly respected princes. When they came to Balaam, they said to him, this is what Balak, son of Zippor, says. Don't let anything keep you from coming to me. I will make sure you are richly rewarded, and I will do whatever you ask. Please come and curse these people for me. Verse 18. But Balaam answered Balak's servants, even if Balak gave me his palace filled with silver and gold, I couldn't disobey the command of Yahweh, my Elohim, no matter whether the request was important or not. Now, why don't you stay here tonight as the others did, and I'll find out what else Yahweh may have to tell me. That night, Elohim came to Balaam and said, if these men have come to summon you, go with them, but do only what I tell you. Verse 21, when Balaam got up in the morning, he saddled his donkey and left with the Moabite princess. Elohim became angry that he was going, so the messenger of Yahweh stood in the road to stop him. Balaam was riding on his donkey, accompanied by his 2 servants. When the donkey saw the messenger of Yahweh standing in the road with his sword drawn, the donkey turned off the road into the fields. Balaam hit the donkey to get him back on the road. Where the road went through the vineyards was narrow and with stone walls on both sides. Now the messenger of Yahweh stood there. When the donkey saw the messenger of Yahweh, it moved over and pinned Balaam's foot against the wall. So Balaam hit the donkey again. Then the messenger of Yahweh moved ahead and stood in a narrow place where there was no room to turn to the right or to the left. When the donkey saw the messenger of Yahweh, it lay down under Balaam. Balaam became so angry he hit the donkey with the stick. Then Yahweh made the donkey speak. And it asked Balaam, "What have I done to make you hit me 3 times?" Balaam answered, "You've made a fool of me. If I had a sword in my hand, I'd kill you right now." The donkey said to Balaam, "I'm your own donkey. You've always ridden me. Have I ever done this to you before?" "No," he answered. Then Yahweh let Balaam see the messenger of Yahweh who was standing in the road with his sword drawn. So Balaam knelt, bowing with his face touching the ground. The messenger of Yahweh asked, "Why have you hit your donkey 3 times like this?" "I've come here to stop you because the trip you're taking is evil. The donkey saw me and turned away from me these 3 times. If it had not turned away from me, I would certainly have killed you by now, but spared the donkey." Balaam said to the messenger of God, "I've sinned. I didn't know you were standing there on the road to stop me. If you still think this trip is evil, I'll go back." The messenger of Yahweh said to Balaam, "Go with the men, but say only what I tell you." So Balaam went to the Balak's princes. When Balak heard that Balaam had come, he went out to meet them at Moab, in the region of Arnon Valley, right on the border of Moab. Balak said to Balaam, "Why didn't you come when I summoned you? You knew I'd be able to reward you." Balaam replied, "Well, I've come to you now, but I can't say whatever I want to. I can only say what Elohim tells me to say." Balaam went with Balak to Karath Huzoth. Balak sacrificed cattle, sheep, and goats and sent some of the meat to Balaam, and the princes were with him. The next morning, Balak took Balaam up to Bbile. From there, he could see the outskirts of the Israelites' camp. All right. Whew, sorry. That's a lot of reading.
You did good.
Did I do good? Yes. I get a B minus. All right. What kind of comments, questions do we have? Yes, ma'am.
I understand why Elohim first told him to go with the man, and then he became angry with him.
Right.
Why did that happen?
So that's right at verse 21 when it says, "When Balaam got up in the morning, he saddled his donkey and left with the Moabite princess." And then verse 22, Elohim became angry with what is going on.
Did you tell him he could go with the man?
He did. In the previous one, it said, "If these men have come to summon you, go with them, but only do what I tell you." So the only thing I could come up with is he did something in there that God didn't tell him to do. So then God became angry with him. He sends the messenger of Yahweh to stand in his way. So he did something in there that he didn't like. Yes, sir.
Well, it reads to me like it took a different route.
Oh, okay. Is that what it reads like?
To me it does, because Balak says, "Well, you took too long. How come you took so long?"
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't put those together. Yeah,
And
good.
if there was something else in there that kind of indicated maybe he took a different.
He took the slow road.
Yeah, he took the easy road.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things too on there is I'm sure this also had to do with his personality and his inner thoughts. He goes, "Oh, great, now I get the money," right? Because remember, they came in, offered him money. He sent them away. They came back with more powerful people, with more money. And he still said no, but then when God said, "Yeah, you can, but you got to do everything I say," and then he may have been a greed thing on there. "Oh, great, now I get to the spoils of everything I'm going to get to do here." Either that, or again, maybe he did something in there that Yahweh didn't tell him to do. Or to Ron's point, is he could have gone a different route, an unauthorized route.
Well, he told him to go with those guys, and he didn't, and it doesn't indicate that he entered
That's true because it does say that he was with his two servants on there. So maybe that's it. That's another. Again, I don't know precisely. I'm just giving you some thoughts on there. But when the messenger of Yahweh stands in the way, if he was with the princess, then everybody would have seen what was going on. So maybe the princess went ahead, and then to Ron's earlier point, he took a different route. And then God's like, what in the world are you doing? I just told you to go with these men. So that's a great point. Yes, sir.
I'm kind of thinking he's supposed to ask Balaam, but they did not even ask. He just went ahead and took off with it. Was that the first visit or the second visit? I can't remember.
Wait, so the second visit is the one where he said, okay, you can go with them if they've summoned you.
Yeah, only if they, summon you first.
Oh, that's a good point. Maybe, because he already told him he couldn't do it. But he did go, he did go and tell him, well, let me go see what, y'all spend the night, and let me see what Elohim says to me again. What's very interesting on here, too, is when I read in verse 8, it says, spend the night here, Balaam said to them, and I'll report to you what Yahweh tells me. That's actually Yahweh's name there. So how does Balaam know what Yahweh's name is? Yeah, so in verse 8, this is when the first princes came with the money, and they said, hey, Balak wants you to take care of this, it curses these people. So he knows Yahweh's name. And this, I don't know if you remember, but Yahweh just revealed his name to Moses right before they left Egypt. And so how did he know? Because at that time, remember he said, nobody's called me this name before, but I'm going to give it to you.
Maybe that was from whoever wrote it down later. They inserted the name.
Well, he doesn't say, let me go talk to my other pagan gods, because, again, he's a divinist, or I don't know what the proper word is. He talks to spirits and mediums and everything else. And so why is he using, and why is God using him, for one? Yes, sir.
Yeah, but he comes from the lineage of Esau. Esau wouldn't know his name possibly.
I don't know, because he didn't reveal his name until Moses, and that was after the everything that happened in Genesis.
But anyway, he was from Edom, and he eventually traveled out towards Syria. He moved the whole gangs out to Syria. I don't know what all happened in Edom. I can't remember exactly. But
Okay.
They all moved out towards
Go towards Syria.
Syria.
Okay.
I'm kind of thinking, the name came Bbile.
Yeah, I think it's curious, because again, he's a spirit talker.
Would have known.
He didn't. No, it says in Exodus when he gets in the bush. I think it was in the bush. He tells him his name. And he says, "I'm going to tell you. Your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, didn't know me by this name, but I'll tell you my name." Yes, sir.
Well, he probably looked it up on the internet.
Looked it up on there. Yeah, he went to the Googles, punched it in, and said, "Oh, look at this."
No, this whole thing is weird from the whole beginning to the end, because
And we got 2 more chapters
yeah,
of this.
well, I know, but he's talking to this guy. This is a Moabite,
Uh-huh.
and not only that, he doesn't react whenever his donkey starts talking to him.
That was the part I'd have been running so far in the other direction.
See how much money I can make off of it,
I was like surprised.
He wasn't killing,
Right.
He's talking to him like no.
Like this happens all the time. Yeah.
Like, why didn't he react to that?
Right. Loretta, you had a comment?
Yeah, God's talking to him. Couldn't he have asked God himself what his name was?
That's true. Yeah, I guess so. Hey, she said if God was talking to him, couldn't God have told him his name? But which is, I understand. Which
Somebody started talking to me. I'm like, who are you?
right.
I'm going to want to know who I'm talking to.
Well, and that's what Moses did. Who is this? But the only thing is, he's not an Israelite. He's not.
The only other Moabite I can think of in the Bible is Ruth,
Yeah, I don't even think Ruth was a Moabite. I think she was captured by them.
mother-in-law.
Is that what it was? Oh, yeah, her mother-in-law. So her husband's mother, but she wasn't. They were captured and brought in on there. But To your point, back to Loretta on there, he's not like a godly person. He's a pagan, God talker on there. A diviner, yeah. And so they're it's like a headhunter. So people obviously come in to pay him, and then he shakes his bells and everything else, and puts these curses on. But he's not what I would consider. I know that God uses whoever he wants, but not a godly, righteous, godly person to talk to him. And just to know his name, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, he is a prophet. It's in the scriptures also. I mean, afterward, we're going to find out here pretty soon. Afterward, he became a soothsayer. But at the time, he was a prophet, which if you go to the 2 Peter verses 15 and 16, you'll see there, that he was a prophet.
Yeah, and so I was talking about Tom Bradford, who I liked. He was calling him a false prophet, and I was like, he's not a false prophet because
Now, if you're doing what
God tells you to do. Yeah. So I thought, to your point, he's a prophet, not a false prophet. Because what did God say? God said, "Here's how you tell if they're a false prophet or not. If they tell you something and it doesn't come true, that they're a false prophet." But what he said came true, so he was a true prophet on there.
Yeah, it's a curse or a blessing,
Right, which is interesting when we get into 23 and 24 on there. Yes. You got another one, Johnny?
Well, I was going to bring up also Numbers chapter 22, verse 6.
Verse 6, and I'll get to you once I get Linda. Please come and curse these people for me because they're too strong for me. Maybe then I'll be able to defeat them and force them out of the country. I know that whomever you bless is blessed, and whomever you curse is cursed. Yeah.
Yeah, you can kind of.
Okay, let me see what Linda had back here.
It's almost like he's got a sense of humor to use this donkey to talk back to him. But, I was wondering if the messenger could be the Messiah.
Well, so anytime you see messenger of Yahweh, there's a Messiah.
Okay.
Yeah. On there. Yeah, he's holding a sword. So anytime you see messenger of Yahweh, that is the Messiah right there. And so the Messiah talked to him directly. But to your earlier point, you have the sense of humor. So there's only been two animals in the Bible that talk, right? There's the snake and the donkey here, and one did bad, and the other one did good. I'm with Ron. Or whoever, I can't remember who said it, but if the donkey starts talking to me, my first reaction is I'm going to kill you. Maybe after I turned around from 20 miles down the road and said, "Wait a minute, did that really happen?" But just the calmness, and that may have been part of the pagan demonization or whatever that he was used to, this type of treatment.
Oh, yeah, familiars with that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Being that he was so angry with that donkey to where, he wasn't seeing a donkey, but the person, the donkey was talking to him.
He let the anger override his common sense.
His vision or something happened there, So, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of somewhat comical, but the seriousness behind it.
Moral of the story is pay attention to your
Pay attention. Yeah, that's one of the things that said that somebody said is, how many times were you dead set on doing something and then something kept getting in your way, and you're like, gosh, dog, this is my goal is to get to temple today, and I wake up and my tire's low and I got to air up my tire, and then my checking, those are all could be signs that God's using to say, hey, listen, that's not exactly where I want you to be at this particular moment on there. So any other comments or questions? Yes, sir.
Well, I'm going to use a little reverse psychology. Maybe it's God saying you need to overcome those obstacles.
Well, what it may come down to is what's the motivation? Was the motivation, hey, I'm going to get a lot of money? They just told me I'm going to get a lot of money here. It's a greed motivation versus I'm doing this for God because I want to try to get this message out or whatever else, right? I think the motivation, to your point, is the determining factor on is this a good delay or a bad delay, something that you got to overcome. Anything else?
I do have.
Yes, ma'am.
It says he saddled his donkey and left with the Moab princes. Where were the princes at? when this
So-
was happening?
Oh, when this particular thing happened, and that was a great question. And that was what kind of Ron's thought is maybe he took a different route than the Moabite princesses. They went directly, because this is one thing that I was thinking about. This is several hundred miles from where he was at to the edge of the Moabites, but the Moabite king was already out on the edge of the Moabite country waiting for him. So somebody had to go ahead to give him the message, hey, we got him, he's on his way. He'll be here any minute. So to Ron's point, maybe he separated from the Moabite princesses and went a different way, and that's why God was angry and caused all this to happen. And then also allowed them to get to the Moabite country before him to alert the king that, hey, we got him, he's here. Come wait out at the countryside for him. So great question.
Yeah, you mentioned the distance, from Syria to Moab. I mean, that's 400 miles.
There's a 400 miles.
Yeah, that's a distance.
Yeah, it's a distance, and so they got separated. Especially if your donkey's talking to you and won't let you go anywhere.
Trying to avoid something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you all very much. Got to run out of time. I know everybody's getting hungry, so I will end it right there. We will continue on with the story, like I said, next week. I'm not sure if we're going to have any messages or not, but if not, we will. All right, so next week we'll just do 23, and then we're going to have a main message come up. So that'll be good, and we'll just kind of continue this over the next couple of weeks till we get to the end of this Balaam Balak story. All right, but before then, we'll sing another song. If everybody would please turn to page number 71 and stand. We're going to sing, Lord, I Will Praise Thee, after which we'll get Mr. Ron Harmon to come do our closing prayer. Page number 71. Thank you. And now for our closing prayer today, Mr. Ron Harmon.
Great, merciful, and heavenly Father, we come before you today, Father, to ask dismissal from the service. We thank you for the knowledge you've given us here today, Father. Thank you for the friendship. Thank you for the camaraderie and in the fellowship. And just be with us, Father, throughout the day, the rest of the day, the rest of the Sabbath. Thank you for the blessing of the Sabbath. Thank you for the blessings of this week. Thank you for all the wonderful things that you give us and show us and teach us. And we thank you for the food that we're about to eat, Father. May it nourish our bodies in the way that you see fit. Keep us safe as we go home and on our journeys, Father. Watch over us and guide us and strengthen us for the week ahead. Let thy will be done.